Nonprofit leaders speak on founding a nonprofit as a Black leader. So we have decided to start a new series. And because we know such great nonprofit leaders, I'm just really excited, like I said, to have them teach us and tell us what they've learned over the years. So today we're talking about founding a nonprofit. I'm Yvonne Sims. I'm sitting in Atlanta and I'm the educational programming manager, which means I train here at Candid. And Carla's like in the back. She didn't put her face up here, but Carla is helping us in the background today. So you'll see her kind of answering questions and helping us along. If you don't know Candid, Candid is the coming together of Foundation Center and Guide Star. Those two organizations are actually celebrating, let me do math, 6 years on February 1st. So we're about to celebrate 6 years as Candid. And every year, millions of nonprofits spend trillions of dollars around the world. Candid finds out where that money goes, where it comes from, and really does a great job with data and helping the sector do what it needs to do. We also have trainings like the one we're having right now, events, programming, so that nonprofits can get the things they need to do their work even better. All right, this is the good part. Today we have with us three founder executive directors that participated all at kind of different times in one of our programs here. I am on the Equitable Access team, and even before we were called that, one of the really important things that we wanted to do was help leaders of color do their nonprofit work better. Particularly, this program was about leaders that were impacting boys and men of color. So these are leaders that I respect, that I'm excited to have with us today. And what they're going to do is introduce themselves and their organizations. And then we're going to talk all about founding a nonprofit. And I will start with AJ.
All right, what up, though, good people? And for those who are not from the great city of Detroit, I see my homie Mina. Mina, what up, though? That is our city's official, unofficial greeting. So everyone from our governor to our mayor is written on buildings around here. So yeah, what up, though? That's our local greeting. You are my people. So yeah. So Q
AJ,
Block.
just real quick, if you can be a little louder, I see people
Okay,
saying they can't hear you great, then just be a little
sure.
louder.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I can speak up. And no one's ever had to tell me to be quiet. I got this. Yeah, I was saying, what up, though? From the great city of Detroit, it's an honor to be in front of you, amazing people. Um, so my program is called Q Blackout, and what makes it different from other oh, back up. The name of the program is Q Blackout Youth Theater. What makes us different from other theater companies is most theaters is about the people on stage, the actors, the singers, the dancers. We have those, but the stars of our show are the people behind the scenes. So our mantra is making backstage center stage. Like that's who we highlight. Um, we started in 2016. We became an official 501c3 in 2018 because Black, white, gay, straight, Jew, Gentile, rich, poor, we wanted you to be a part of it. Our mission is to provide hope and access in Detroit, especially at that time. Those were two things that were hard to come by. Uh, Sometimes I joke we had a bad football team that didn't win a game, and we were like the punching bag of most comedians. So hope was hard to come by. But even if you had hope, then it's like, what do you do? Like, what's the next step? So we wanted to find an avenue for people to do things. What a lot of people don't know is Detroit is the second largest theater market in America. So it's New York, then Detroit. If you ever come to our city, you will find more seats for theater here than pretty, like I said, anywhere other than New York. In addition to that, we have the big three. We have three major casinos, numerous marketing firms, over 500 churches, and all of those places need AV people. So hence why we wanted to focus on the behind the scenes. Because we focus on behind the scenes work, our students are empowered to be the stars backstage. And they are always in high demand. I always say, not every place is going to need a white woman or a black man or a Hispanic child, but everyone needs lights, everyone needs sound. And in addition to that, find me a company with more than 100 people that don't have someone doing copy for them, that don't have someone designing their website. Those are the things that our young people learn at Q Blackout. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So this slide here, gang, it's all about the numbers, and that the numbers really don't. I mean, they matter, but the big thing is the impact that we have, right? So with all the 500,000 raised and the 40 students trained, my favorite part about this is that every single student in the tech program has a working credit and have has been paid. Every single one. Every single second year performer has a credit and has been paid. And the really cool thing is what we our specialized tech crew, like the best of the best techs on a program called Tech Love, they actually have a standing gig. Like they work at churches and do their sound, they do their lights. We all know that since COVID happened, that um, everyone had to stream everything. Yeah, our kids became in real demand when it's like, oh yeah, no, they know how to do that. So our kids are getting bread, as they say. So um, yeah, we're in 2 states. We're moving into three, hopefully next year. Hopefully we'll be in Buffalo, New York. And the cool thing about our program is like we focus on what you do best. So in Detroit, we about theater. In Atlanta, that's like Tyler Perry country. So our students in there are focusing on video and production. And in Buffalo, that's Rick James country. So they're all about being musicians. So that's what we're about there. You move to the next slide. This picture right here with this young lady, these two young ladies, is my favorite moment in our program. Um, Meet Layla. So Layla was our stage manager. And for those that don't know, the stage manager is in charge of the program. In Q Blackout, one of the best things is I tell people I'm only there if the building's on fire. That's the only thing. If the building's on fire during the show, that's the only reason I'm there. Because the stage manager is in charge. Her mom knows it, her dad, the pastor of the church that we're at, her older siblings. Everyone knows that when the show happens, Layla's in charge. Layla just turned 12 when we took that picture. So the head honcho of our program is 12 years old. Um, during this show, during the climax of the show, there was a really, really difficult cue. And she was in rehearsal and she was trying to get it and couldn't get it. So she called a special rehearsal. And during that show, some people came late, so she wasn't able to practice it like she wanted. So I told her, hey, Layla, during the show, I will sit next to you and I'll help you call it. The amazing thing is she didn't need me at all. She like called it masterfully. Um, and my favorite thing was me and my wife was sitting next to her, and I'm so glad I got to see this. She called the show, and there was this big scene where all the lights come on and then they go black. When the lights went black, I looked over at her and she was high fiving her team, and she did that Kobe Bryant fist pump. Like I just nailed it. I remember doing that fist pump myself, and it was like, man, this is why we do what we do. This is why we do that work. So I'm so proud of her and her team. That was her older cousin next to her. Those two during the show were in charge. Like if the show was a hit or a miss, it was all on them, and they called it so perfectly. So I'm really proud of them, and that's why we do our work. The other is, and it's a typo. Fine, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be, baby, let me get the keys. So if you grew up in the 2000s like me, that is a line from Juvenile. He said, baby, let me get the keys to the Rover truck. This right here, my friends, is us um, signing for our own building. We just bought our own building. And my favorite part about this is we did it Randy Moss style. Straight cash on me. Not a loan, nothing. We were super blessed. It originally started off at like 400,000 and we got it for 250. And again, straight cash on me. Not a loan, nothing. It's ours. I got the keys that day. So um, those are two memories. And I want to thank my homie Yvonne for that because plug for Candid. They are super dope. Super, super dope. They have this grant writing boot camp that she pulled a few strings, got me in, and used those skills. And how do we get straight cash? Yeah, we got like a large grant from the state and from the city. And I honestly, no cap, as young people say, probably wouldn't be able to do it without that boot camp. So shout out to Yvonne and Candid. And you can go to the last slide. And this right here, this is why we do what we do. These are some of our young performers there. They're amazing and they do amazing work. We're going to talk about it later. When people give to us, they're not giving, they're investing in the future of the city that they're in. Over here, you know how you can reach us: TikTok, Instagram. We got our website. We have a giving link as well. But the truth is, I always tell people money will come. Kick the tires. Check us out. See what we're about. And then if you want to give, great. But the work speaks for itself. I always tell people, I used to think we were a youth theater, but we're really a workforce development organization that just happens to use theater. Um, for me, I always tell people the coolest thing I ever did in my life was marry my wife. But the second was I got to do sound for DJ Jazzy Jeff. I'm a kid from the hood. Like when I say the hood, I mean like I got friends who didn't make it. That's something no one can ever take from me. And what we're doing in Q Blackout is we're giving our kids their own DJ Jazzy Jeff moment. So that's our program. I hope I can be a help later today, but that's us.
Yay. You set us off so nice. See, I knew it was going to be great.
Great.
I love it. So, yeah, if you all in the audience can follow, expand your network by following on all these different platforms. I love all the QR codes. Please do. I just think we're all kind of in this together. All right. Now we're going to meet our next nonprofit, if I could move my mouse. And that is Janice Malone.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, very good. I was worried. Okay, I'm the founder and I'm the thought leader for an organization called Vivian's Door. We established this organization back in 2018. I hold a BSBA in management from Chapman University in Orange, California. And I'm really a serial entrepreneur on the for-profit side. So this foray into being a nonprofit was an experiment for me, which really worked out, and it's helping a lot of people. Small businesses themselves employ the vast majority of Americans. They employ 70% of the small businesses in America employ the people in America. Solidly building a real good portion of this thing we call the middle class. But that opportunity really has not been the same for everyone, particularly for Black and Brown small business owners, founders, so to speak, as well. You can go next slide. Um, that's a little bit about who I am. Now, the organization itself, Vivian Store, our mission really is to help small businesses build wealth for themselves and residents in marginalized communities who face systemic poverty and experience low levels of venture capital. When we recognize that as our mission, I say the real mission is to help those minority businesses grow, scale, and reinvest in their communities. Our vision really is that one day all businesses' voices will be heard and respected, and they will all have the capital, the knowledge, the resources, and support to grow, scale, and pour that prosperity back into their communities, creating equity for all. What you see are some of the scenes from our training, our working with these entrepreneurs. On the end there, we also work with farmers in rural America because farming is a business, and we help them grow those businesses so they can continue to feed America. Next slide, please. Our inspiration for the work that we do. Uh, we're an example of Vivian Malone Jones. I don't know how many of you know that in June 11th, 1963, Vivian Malone Jones walked through the doors of the University of Alabama, which was segregated at that time, to integrate that university. And 2 years later, she became the first Black graduate of that institution, really integrating institutions across the country. What we see in football players on the field with every university in America today would not have happened had she not taken those steps. So we are an example of her stand in that schoolhouse door. It really did mean something to us because I'm actually married to her cousin, Willie Malone, and we take it seriously, the work that we do honoring her name. She once said that if what she did made a difference in anyone's life, that it really was worth it. And I think that that is a very powerful statement. In 2018, we started Vivian's Door to honor her courage, her perseverance, and her legacy, and to help other people walk through the door of small business ownership in South and Central Alabama and the Gulf Coast. Those are the areas that we currently walk in. Next slide, please. A little bit about our impact. There are three main things that we do. We do business training, we do business support services, and we do a lot of community wealth building, community engagement facing stuff to engage the community with these businesses so that they can support them. And 2024, we've served over 500 businesses, closer to really about 700 businesses since our inception. And we also the work with farmers, primarily those underserved ones in rural Alabama and the Black Belt of Alabama on that rich Black soil. And 7 of those Black farmers, we have town halls for them. We conduct these, and we have usually about 30 to 50 people on those town halls. In the Inflation Reduction Act, we helped 50 of those farmers that were qualified apply for that money on the Discrimination Financial Assistance Program. And today, we have over $1.5 million that was granted back to them for what they should have gotten through the loans that they were denied. We have something we called the Open Door, which is our directory, which is soon to become a marketplace where these businesses can put their products and services out there no matter what the climate is, so people can find them and support them. And you can go on our website at viviansdoor.com and find that Open Door directory. 97% of the clients that we serve employ local people in these communities of South Alabama. 33% of these guys who go to our next level business training program have secured capital from banks when they went to get money. Great story. A young gentleman, 28 years old, wanted to purchase a service station in rural Alabama. That service station cost close to $700,000. We weren't sure that we could try to help him get this money. Well, we put our team together, we went to work, and we were able to help this gentleman get a $650,000 loan to buy that service station in rural America. And he's now the owner of that service station. So those are some of the stories by which we help people do the work that they dream of and they want to do. We have over 250 trainings and town halls annually that we do. Next slide, please. These are some of the testimonials that the folks that we've served come back to us and just sometimes it just puts me in tears. This is not what I signed up for, but this is the power of the work that we are doing. The 2 young gentlemen on the truck there, they wanted to have a trucking business. And really, we helped them from ground up, build out a plan, helped them go out and find financing for it. And now, today, 2 years later, they're all bringing in almost $1 million from that trucking company. So, very impactful stories. The gentleman at the cattle farmer there, this guy, we helped him get an additional 200 acres for his land. He now has almost 800 acres of land, and he has over 400 head of cattle there in rural Alabama. And we helped him get a loan. He found gravel on his land, and we helped him to get a loan to build out that gravel pit. And we helped to do the plan for that. There's just so many stories that we have about the work that we do that I'll just leave it there. If we'll go on to the next one. How can you help us? What our real needs are? We need more capital for the capacity building work that we do. As you know, in the current environment, a lot of the work into these underserved communities is not really able to carry on in the way that it was carrying on. And so capacity building is how we get and lift these businesses up. It is how we get these communities circling around these businesses, supporting them. Many of the businesses that we support could use a little bit of capital. So micro grants, something as low as $500 sometimes can help someone get an idea off the table and get it started so that they can grow it into something much bigger and better. And we need mentors and volunteers. This is how you can follow us. We're on all the social media feeds, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, you name it, we're on it. And you can get on our webpage at viviansdoor.com, and our phone number and email is right there in front of you. I thank you very much for listening to me today.
Thank you so much, Janice. Yep, we're going to hear even more from you. We have one more leader to meet, and then we'll get started. Takiwa, you're muted, just in case you don't know. Got to say that once on a
I
Zoom
know,
every time.
thank you. Sorry about that. Good. Hello, my name is Takiwa Smith. I am founder and executive director of Science, Engineering, Mathematics Link Incorporated, also known as SCM Link, and we are a Atlanta-based nonprofit. I always say I'm a girl who grew up loving math and science, and my village never made me believe that it wasn't possible. And so that is one of the things that I do through my work at SCN Link. And also a story that I'm going to share about my late maternal grandmother. I majored in chemical engineering at FAMU, and I found out when I was in FAMU one weekend going to Americas, like college students do, loads of laundry, a cooler for meat to take back with me. And I was talking to my grandmother about what she wanted to do when she grew up, and finding out that her favorite subject in high school was chemistry. But because her father died in 11th grade, being in rural southern Georgia, when the father dies, that changes the whole family dynamics as far as finances. And she wasn't able to pursue her dream of being a chemist. But she was really, really excited that her granddaughter was majoring in chemical engineering and shared this love of chemistry. So I was really happy to have that bond with her. And I tell the people, I subconsciously do this work to make sure that children don't have barriers to becoming a STEM professional. Next slide. I started the work of SAM Link in 2005, and it was in Atlanta working at a middle school and noticing that kids who had the potential of becoming STEM professionals weren't even thinking about it. And it was mainly because they were naming the careers of the adults that they knew and that were in their lives. And I was like, I'm a chemical engineer. And the easiest thing that I could do to change that is to connect them with STEM professionals. And so the principal that I was working at school at the time was very open to me doing things to expose kids and bring STEM professionals in. And we started from there. And that is what our vision statement is, unveiling potential through exposure, because kids become what they see. And the easiest way to get kids thinking about pursuing STEM careers is seeing people doing those careers. And so what we do is we find STEM professionals, STEM undergraduate students and graduate students, and we recruit them as volunteers for our programming so they can share their passion and expertise in STEM and inspire these young STEM professionals. That picture is me probably when I first 1 to 3 years. I was doing a lot of the programming myself. And because I'm a chemical engineer, 8 times out of 10, when I'm in front of kids, we're going to do chemistry. And so that was then girls doing neutralization reaction. Over the years, what has remained the same is that we focus on engaging students in hands-on STEM activities, exploring STEM careers, and encouraging participation in STEM research by having students, supporting students' science fair project development, as well as sending the STEM community to serve as STEM judges. Because if you have a child and you went to their school fair, you have seen random people serving as STEM fair judging. And we want kids to get great feedback from their science fair projects. So they encourage them, because for me, I believe science fair is the only time in K through 12 where kids get an opportunity to choose what they want to study, and they can start to get a feel for when they love STEM and what their favorite STEM discipline. Because I found out my favorite STEM discipline was chemistry in my 10th grade teacher's Shy chemistry class, Mrs. Shy. And that was because we did experimentation. It wasn't the book work, it wasn't the thing, it was getting my hands dirty in the lab, having stuff go boom, and getting that chance to get my hands dirty. And so what we also do, we have two core programs, and this is it's evolved over the years, but this is something that we developed post-pandemic, is our community STEM program, which we do STEM in community spaces such as public libraries, churches, so that we can make STEM accessible to families, but also have a sense of belonging, because parents may feel more comfortable taking their child to a public library or a church, but not always feel as comfortable going to their local college and university or a STEM museum where there are barriers to, because they're entry costs, right? So we can have these kids come to their churches, the library, park and rec, and we have seen, we've been doing this program about 3 years, and we have seen families come, kids come over and over again, because they're coming to a place to engage in STEM education experience that is 10 to 15 minutes from their home, and they can easily get there. And another thing we started during the pandemic is focusing more on STEM literacy and STEM communication skills, because those are, one, not always skills that are developed for kids that are interested in STEM, but they are critically important, because I'm sure everybody has met a STEM professional that you're like, you don't know how to talk to anyone. And so we want to make sure that kids can also learn how to read STEM topics, learn how to communicate. We have a STEM journal club for high school students where their final project is to produce a STEM podcast. And we have a podcast channel. And it's really important for kids who are interested in STEM to learn how to read and communicate STEM. Because just like everything else, if you cannot read well, you cannot do well in the subject, and STEM is no exception. Next slide. So over the years, we've been in this since 2005. We've impacted over 20 youth. We've had over 500 STEM professionals volunteer, but this is our most recent data. Our program year is from August to May. It's July 31st, but we take a summer hiatus because this work it's exhausting and everybody needs a break. So I tell people we get tired like the teachers. We on the teacher schedule with our work. We have summers off. Plus, I also know that it is important as an executive leader to take time so you can have time to think. And that's what we usually do during the summer. We have a month to think and a month to rest. And so, excuse me, this is our most recent data of from August to December 31st when we took our hiatus for the break. Next slide. And so most of my proudest moments have come post pandemic because when that March 2020 hit and they were like shut down, I know that I was among many leaders who was like, does this mean that the doors are going to close, that the organization will be done? Do I have to do something else? And what I did, um, among different from a little of my peers, is I took a break. Like we did not try to immediately try to do anything virtual. Um, my program coordinator is really, really good at digital storytelling. And from March to August, most of our programming was digital storytelling on our social media platforms. And then we took a couple of time, well, after I took like 2 months for self-care and mental health, we thought a lot about, okay, how do we transform our program to a hybrid program model so that we are never, ever totally shut down if anything happens where in-person programming cannot occur. And so that is when I created this digital, maybe for 2021, 20, we had to come back with digital. So we had our virtual Teen Science Cafe, which we're still doing. This is the kind of last year that we're doing it simply because there's more in person. That's when we started our journal club for high school students, which is a hybrid program model where the program sessions are over Zoom. They read their journals, but then we meet in person twice where they record their podcast and we have a celebration for them. And then we just have a combination of things that are in the community so that easily we can always come back to digital if we need to, if anything happens where the world shut down again. And so as I've been doing this work for 2020 since for almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years this June. And it is very, very important as a leader to know that things change. And when those change have to happen, like you have to have a tunnel vision in a sense, like don't look to the left or right because what other orgs may be doing is not your lane, but really think about what is your mission? What do you want to accomplish when those pivots start to happen? And so that is my private moment looking at, okay, what is our vision? How can we still do the work in the way that aligns with our vision? Final slide. As always, nonprofits need money. And so I am very, very proud of this year we reestablished our individual donor campaign called Donate Your Lunch Money. And it's something that one of my colleagues came up with where we all are philanthropists, but sometimes individual thinks unless you have thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, because we know what the image of philanthropist looks like, that you can't make an impact. And we're like, something as small as your lunch money, whatever that is. Some people's lunch money is $5. Some people's lunch money is $500. Whether it's a day worth, a month worth, a week worth, you can make an impact if you care about STEM education and youth with your lunch money. And so we're moving that barrier. Currently, we are in year one of a 3-year strategic plan. So implementing that where we are reestablish our relationship with corporations. So if any corporate folks want to look at where use as a vehicle for your STEM outreach, we do that. We are adding new board members. So if you're in Metro Atlanta, you can reach out, and that is something that we're looking for. And we are always looking for volunteers. So if you are a member of the STEM community or undergraduate student or graduate student, because sometimes the kids are like, Mr. Key, were you old? And I'm like, I'm not. But then I'm like, these kids are young. I guess I do look up to them. And so we really want to engage professionals in all levels, the college students, the graduate students, because it's that near peer mentoring, and the professionals because they're in the field. And the older you get, the more you know. And so just having that balance of the diversity of levels, STEM disciplines, so that we can really, really do one of my biggest goals is to expose as many kids as I can to as many STEM disciplines as I can. And so on the QR code, if you scan it, it goes to our website where you can learn a little more about our org. You can connect to our social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel where all our virtual stuff. And you can check out our kids' podcast on our podcast channel on Spotify. I told you we produce STEM podcasts. And thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so glad to get out of PowerPoint hell. Thank you. Now we can actually talk and I can stop pressing the wrong buttons. And that is the best part of this. So of course I have a million questions for y'all. So we're gonna have to gonna I'm gonna take a breath and I'm gonna take a beat so that we can find out who's in our audience. We talked about this amongst ourselves that we weren't sure who was gonna be here, and how long they've been working in the sector. Are they thinking about starting a nonprofit? All of those things. So we just wanted to know first before we start giving you all kinds of advice and expertise, how long you've been in the nonprofit sector at all. Is it 0 to 5 years? Is it 6 to 10 years? Have you been doing this 10 to 15? Are you just thinking about starting a nonprofit and starting to work in nonprofit? Or has it been 15 to 20 years? So, and I should have put a plus, like just 20 plus years, but we just wanted to get a sense, and y'all are answering really nice and quickly, but I'll give you another 30 seconds or so. Um, Y'all can't see that, can you? Am I hiding this from y'all panelists, or can you see that?
I
Okay.
see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see
So
it.
you get a sense. Okay, good. All right, I'm gonna end it so we can all see it and share the results. So it looks like about 39% are 0 to 5 years. So we're talking to a lot of people who are kind of newer to the nonprofit sector. And then 6 to 10, we have 14%, 10 to 15, 13%, 15 to 20 years, 22%. And then people who are thinking about starting a nonprofit are 12%. So I'm gonna stop sharing that one and just ask one more before we get to questions. I should have probably asked Carla to help me with this one. And then the other thing we wanted to know was who was here. So are you an executive director? You've already started something and you're the leader of that. You're on the board of a nonprofit. So you're just here to kind of like, yeah, how can I help the nonprofit that I'm working with? I'm a fundraiser working in development. You might be someone who's just wants to know, yeah, how did y'all make this happen? Because I'm trying to help our nonprofit by raising funds. I work at a foundation. We like to see people who work at foundations hanging out and learning more about our nonprofits. Or I work at a philanthropy serving organization. So Candid would be an example of that. So we do a lot of partnering with other organizations and helping nonprofits do whatever it is that they do. So try to enhance their missions in the work that we do. So I'll give you another 30 seconds or so. And it looks like we have a lot of executive directors in the room, which is cool. That means y'all can talk, have those conversations. I'm gonna go ahead and end and share. And it looks like 57% are executive directors themselves. So y'all better, give good advice. We have 17% that are on the board, 13% that are raising funds. And we already know executive directors are raising funds too. So I know. We have people working at foundations, about 7%. And then the PSOs or philanthropy serving organizations, that's 6%. I'm going to stop sharing that so we can start talking. Now, this is going to be an interesting tightrope because I have some questions, but I also have to dig into the questions that are being asked from the audience. So this will be fun for me to juggle a bit. The first thing I have to ask, because I do, as Candid, we do a lot of classes around just introductory stuff. And one of the classes we have is starting a nonprofit right for you? And I think the reason we decided to have that class rather than how to start a nonprofit is because we know this is not easy, right? So we're thinking, let's not necessarily encourage people to start nonprofits. Let's just see if it makes sense to start a nonprofit. So I just have to know why, oh, why did you decide to start a whole nonprofit rather than just, volunteering or that kind of thing? And I'll start with Tequila because it was so long ago. Why start your whole thing, a whole new thing?
When I think about what the difference is between why you should start your nonprofit or joining somebody else's work, is really thinking about what the overall impact you want to make in the world and what is the best way to do that. And so for me, there weren't many STEM organizations at the time. It was SIM. There was no T, SEM. Um, but I knew that based on what I was seeing and what I wanted to see in the world, which was the STEM world, having more kids that was just confident as I was with the village supporting their interest in STEM. And I didn't see that anywhere. And so when you start something, I know that the whole goal is, can I do this impact without creating something? Or is the only way I want to see the impact in the world is to create the infrastructure, the org to make that happen?
Gotcha. Okay, so you just had to do it. How about you, AJ?
Um, Long story short, I come from a really big, huge youth theater here in Detroit, and they discontinued the tech program. And honestly, most theaters they focus on the performers. I wanted to do something different, and yeah, I had the know-how, and my family had the space, and and honestly, I didn't know what I didn't know. I would, if I knew it would take all this, probably wouldn't have done it. I'm
Right.
so glad that the ignorance was bliss because it's been a life changer. But yeah, once we started, we seen how much our community needed, and because we started in the church,
Mm,
other churches was like, "Man, y'all kids are doing all that. We can't even get our kids to clap their hands." So it was like, "All right, yeah, we're doing something, and our kids are learning marketable skills." So that's why we kept it going.
gotcha. I like that, the ignorance part. You're like, oh, we could just start this. We good. And nah, you didn't
Yeah,
know.
didn't know.
Yeah. And Janice, you have sort of a different story because you came from small business in the first place, right?
Yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'd been in business for, geez, when I started this about 20 some years, I'd already been in business. And why I started it is because I just kept seeing that folks who look like me weren't growing these big, huge businesses that some of my friends who didn't look like me were growing. And every time I go and talk to people about it that were supposed to be doing this kind of work, they looked at me like I was an alien. They're like, this, it already exists. Just take, and I'm like, well, what am I missing here, man? Because I can't touch it in the way that you think I can. And so uh, I had a dream one night, and that dream revealed the name of this thing to me. And I kind of put it in a box and said, look, I got a career. I don't really need this going on over here. So I kind of pulled it out of that box later because it kept coming back to me. And I just believe that, you have to invent the change you'd like to see. And that's how Vivian's Door came about. It was like, if I want to see these, if I want folks trained, if I want folks to have resources and capital, if I want this to really happen, I've got to, put on those, boxing gloves and get in the ring.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So y'all were called to do this work and I can see it because you're still here. So I have to ask this technical question because anytime I do like a library class and we have people who are very new to nonprofits but are doing really great things and want to make an impact, there's a lot of the I started a nonprofit, but I still have a 9 to 5. So they're working all day and then after work, they're doing their nonprofit. And it also sounds like a lot of their money, their check, is how they're doing whatever work they've decided to do, which is, noble and wonderful, but we need to get paid and have actual businesses. Like that, we don't recommend this, but we know that's probably where you start. So just want to hear, how did you get to the point where one, you could pay yourself? Like, where was the final, like, I no longer have to go to my 9 to 5 and do this. This is an actual job now, and this is going to sustain me. And I'm gonna start with AJ. When were you able to cut yourself a check?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. I focused
Hmm.
on my people first. So
Of
I
course you
wasn't
did.
able to cut myself a check till last year, but my people
Oh.
got paid in. So we revamped in 2020 after COVID because
Hmm.
we figured out, hey, this is what we want to do. So
Hmm.
as a theater, the first year I was doing everything. I was teaching dance and singing, all that. Like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So the volunteers, we actually paid them the following year. Truth Gang is for our org. Our focus is the tech in our building and our students. So we pay our staff well, but not like, it's a part-time thing. And for myself, like I enjoy the other stuff I do outside of this. So I pay myself a small salary. And I'll be honest, I'm truly blessed. My 9 to 5, I don't work hard at all. So yeah, I really don't like.
I hope your boss is not here.
No, no, my boss knows that I don't work hard at all.
That's
I
funny.
In my 40-hour week, I maybe work 10 hours and that's all. As long as you
Uh,
get the work done. So I'm super blessed.
gotcha.
So yeah, I pay myself just enough to say that, we're paying all of our employees. But
Hmm.
for me, it was more about paying my employees than myself. So they
Gotcha.
actually make more than me. But
That
we were
that
able to
makes
do it
sense.
the
How
next year.
how how long did it take from start to I can actually pay people?
So we were super fortunate that we found our rabbi really early. We found I come from the corporate world, so we went to corporate sponsors. But there was a
Mhm.
question in here about how did you start before you were able to get sponsors? Like we just went to the people we know. We went to the churches and the business owners, and like $5 is a lot when you don't have $5, and that $5 adds up. If you get 100 people to give you $5 over time you're able to do stuff, and that's the approach we took. Like every $5 will help me, and then eventually we found our rabbi, and then the rest, as they say, is history.
Awesome. Takiwa, how about you? How long till you could, pay
Okay,
yourself and
I
have
will be
employees?
perfectly honest. My
Hmm.
intent was never to make money or have this be a salary for
Right.
myself. I just wanted to do the work. So I was working. Fortunately, because I was in higher ed most of my career, I had the flexibility to do this. Also, because of how our program structure is, we recruit the STEM community because we cannot do this work without the connection. And
Mhm.
so, how I ended up getting to the point where I've just started doing this full time, maybe the last 7 years, it really got to the point where the organization had grown too big for me to work from somebody for somebody else. I was already, you know,
Right.
not the best. My work is impeccable, but I was at an organization where we had a 35-hour work week and I had done my work in 15 hours. And so it felt like you got to the point where you were stealing your work, for it because you're not focused. But I did start paying um, part-time staff around 2020, like maybe 3 years in. And so we've had part-time staff and I've been able to do more. like hire a program coordinator, assistant, our evaluation consultant, because data is key. The thing I've been able to do since the pandemic is pay an accountant because you got to keep these IRS and the funders right, and so it is have this expansion of paying more people to support the work, to make sure we're in compliance with everyone, that the
Mhm.
data collection is impeccable. I'm an engineer. We, got to have the data. Um, and so that has been the journey. And it's just been a combination of, I really believe in a multi revenue source so that, you're not always relying on one thing, that something is coming in from somewhere throughout your fiscal year.
I love that. AJ mentioned individual givers already, which is big, and then you just mentioned diversity of revenue. So you shouldn't be, just depending on foundations, just depending on people. It should be diverse. And so I'll kind of switch up and ask Janice, in terms of having diverse revenue, how do you make sure that you have revenue coming from different sources? And when were you able to, or maybe you're still working on this, have like that good mix of revenue for your nonprofit?
Um, It is very important to have those diverse buckets. You got to have your foundations, you got to have your individual well-seated donors, you got to have your peer-to-peer, just individuals can give you a little money at a time, it adds up. And then, of course, you have to go after grants to really kind of grow this thing strong and bigger institutionally, with state, city, county, federal. And the question that you asked about I think when we were we able to pay ourselves, we were lucky because when we decided we really wanted to uh, grow this thing strong and really kind of set it foundationally on the ground, that little business background of mine kind of hopped in really strong, and I started treating this whole thing like a business. So I assembled a team of guys who could research for me, like do some landscaping on what kind of money was out there, how we could get it, and then from that information, we started writing a lot of different grants to different places, and they started to come in. You write enough of them, you're bound to win some of them. And so, about 3, 4 years ago, I think we're 5 years in now. This will be our sixth year coming up. About 4 years ago, we were able to fully pay full-time staff and everything. And we've just been kind of lucky ever since. But we are definitely very strategic at going after money from a whole lot of different angles, from doing events to all this funding from grants and foundations and stuff.
Wonderful. And when you say we, who are you talking about?
Well, I always speak in the form of we because, uh, first and foremost, I am now not a founder, I'm a co-founder. I brought my daughter into this thing with me to be my exit strategy. And uh, so we together work this, but we do have a team of about 5 internal people in our office who 4 of those people are full-time. And then we have a staff of about 8 to 10 contract and part-time people.
Oh, I love it. So AJ, question. I think I just taught a board class last week. And anytime we do, how to get your board to fundraise, how to build your board, those are very popular because as we know, you need a board. And it would be nice if your board were these magical people that just do what you want, but that's not necessarily how it happens all the time. So I'm just curious how you started, like, how did you get a board in the first place? And then how has the board evolved and how much are they, part of the team and do what you need?
Okay, so I'm gonna keep it 100. My board really originally started as my man's and them. That's what we officially called them, my man's and them. I just needed to get it
Never
on
know.
paper, right?
Yep.
But eventually, we went through the Candid courses. We went to our local uh, uh, like nonprofit in our state all the resources, and we actually got them training. Like it was like we're training our students, we're training our staff. Let's train our board, and then we just found people was passionate. Like my man and them got weeded out. It was like, all right, who's really for me, right?
Yeah.
Who's really want to do the work? And like it was like, hey, we got this class, it's free, it's 2 hours. Then you seen who was, as they say, about that life, right? They wanted to come really do the work. And then we, like for me, my thing is it's not just our students. I want everyone to get better, learn, and grow. So we try to find incentives to help people learn. And I always say like this organization, it's it's really like a family business to me. And like you can build your brand here. Like if something goes wrong, no one's going to yell at you. It all falls back on me. So if you want to do something, figure it out here. If you want to do marketing, figure out how we're going to market the next event. Make your
Mm,
mistakes here and then take it to the real world. And that's been something that a lot of people are like, okay, I could mess with that. So that's how our board kind of
gotcha.
grew.
So are you saying you kind of did like a call for board members and just said, if you want to help, come get trained and you can be part
Hmm.
of this? And
Yeah,
so, oh, okay, I love that. That's kind of different and it seems less intimidating than, I'm looking for this professional board where you have to have all these things. So, okay.
honestly, I tell
Mm,
people I'd rather have passion than skill, any because we can teach you, but like I
okay.
can't like I said, people just don't really want to do. But like people who have that passion, like you make a mistake, we can deal with that. We can figure out what went wrong and go from there. But like I can't deal with like you didn't even try. So that's our approach. I'd rather have the mistakes than somebody who don't have a passion.
Absolutely. Takiwa, how about your board?
I just because of our type of work, we have had professional board people
Hmm.
because we need access to we need certain skill sets. Initially, it was a lot of my friends simply because I'm a STEM professional and we wanted this STEM outreach. And so
That's
a
good.
lot of my friends were the STEM community. And so we were able to do a lot of foundational building of the organization. Um, Together. So there were things that I did, like do the United Way VIP program to help
Mhm.
learn more because I got a chemical engineering degree. Anything about nonprofits.
Right.
Then I went to a micro enterprise to learn about the infrastructure for women who taught women how to do Black women how to do micro enterprises. And so from that knowledge between the first board and I, we talked and we kind of developed foundation. And one of the things I can just say, your board and your needs for your board will change as your organization grows. And so
Mhm.
right now, it is even more critical for me to have certain professionals. But also, one of the things I'm looking at this phase of the organization is not to have a board based on who I am, where we are, but where we want to go. And so, to me, it is more important. The skills are important, but a lot of that you can hire out or you can volunteer. But it's who has the relationships, the strategic thinking, to move the organization forward. And so I don't think they tell us early in the year like to do that. You just think about like this is where I am. I need S amount of board. I gotta keep board members because if not, IRS will shut us down. But really include who is on your board. And it's less about I need an accountant because your board member can't do your books anyway, right? But more so like when you think about where the org wants to go, um, who fits that? Whether it's a skill set, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a connector. And I use a combination of my friends, posting on social media. Right now, I'm doing board development programs, going to their alumni because I did VIP. I go to VIP a lot. And so I think it's just a combination. Also, corporate volunteering platforms. So a lot of those corporate giving programs, they all will also have an opportunity where their employees can volunteer. And I always put our board search in there as well. And I'm
I
saying
like
you're
that.
looking, so I'm always like, hey, Rattlers, can you find me a board member?
Not the HBCUs. Oh boy. Just make a call. They're all coming. We know. We know. How about you, Janice? Your board, how did it evolve?
It started out with just, the closest people that were kind of connected to us, period. And it evolved from there to more strategically calling in folks who, knew people, had some information that we knew was key and valuable for us. And, I've been around a long time. And so I just able to call on folks that I knew and say, hey, look, I think you would be great for this board. You got time to consider this? And just got a lot of good takers. We have a strong set of folks, bankers, we have business development guys, we got all kinds of guys that can really kind of take us where we needed to go. We were lucky enough last year to win that AARP Purpose Prize, and
Mhm.
so we ended up getting a bunch of what we call consultants working with us, pouring into us, helping us really understand how to get this thing, to the next level that we want it at. And so now we can really begin to work stronger with that board on getting to where we need to be so that this thing stays around long after I've exited.
Gotcha. Okay, the chat is hot, the Q&A is hot. I'm not even sure what's about to happen. So I'm gonna try and try my best to answer to ask some of these questions. The first one is very similar to what I asked, like what inspired you to create your nonprofit? But then the person goes on to say, how did you identify the need to address a specific problem that your community was facing? Surveys, personal experience, etc. I want to say to Kiwa, you said that this was missing, right? So you didn't necessarily do a survey. You were kind of like, I'm looking for this thing and I don't see it. Is that pretty
Yeah.
accurate?
And I also took from my personal experience. I was
Mm,
a kid who loved math and science, who had parents that did not love math and science. And so
gotcha.
a lot of shaping the work is really for those parents that are like my parents. Like it was really my sixth grade teacher that told my mom he was good in science, create the environment for her to thrive in it. And so that is kind of how I developed it and had the niche of knowing like these kids can do STEM. Our babies are brilliant, right? And
Absolutely.
how do we create this environment where they can see themselves doing it, but also knowing they're kids, they can't drive themselves places, right? So how do we make it in a way that is easy for parents to foster this love of STEM or even exposing their children to STEM, whether they like it or not?
I like it. And then I see a question, how did you get funding before you received your 501(c)(3) status? It's a struggle out here. I believe you kind of all answered that in saying you go to people, right? So the first monies are usually individuals. Is that right, AJ?
Yeah, definitely go to people, and then like um, still go to businesses, let them know you're doing the work, and let them know that hey, like we're about to get our 501. Because sometimes, in our experience, there were some companies like, all right, well, here's let me help you on how to get it. They told us who to talk to. So even if you don't have all those things, just by letting people know that you're doing the work, people will be more willing to help once they see that you're doing something. Then you're just like, oh, I'm waiting to get my 501.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes there's in kind. So they may not be able to give you money, but they can give you stuff, and that is helpful as well. So I'll just kind of
And you
jump
know,
in.
I don't know if it exists, but when I started, I got a grant from a community foundation that was
Okay.
like, okay, you're doing this now it's social impact work. You are laying the seeds for your organization. And it was just a few thousand, but it was a few thousand that I didn't have to take from my paycheck. Um, so yeah, I think it was from like 0 to 3 to just help you like move forward because you got to have some stuff in your packet to show the work, and I think that was the
Right.
purpose of those grants to give you a little financial support so that you could successfully when you know apply for your status achieve it.
I love it. I'm gonna go on to this question. How did you, oh, wait, hold on. Um, Federal funding, right? We know there's a lot going on right now. I'll just take a deep breath. So if will the federal funding restrictions impact you, or how are you kind of sustaining or thinking about sustaining given everything that's coming down the pike? And I'll start with you, Janice, because I know one of the times that we've spoken, you had a really good federal grant around your farmers, and you were really excited about getting that, having that relationship. So yeah, what are we doing? What are we gonna do?
Well, we still have that uh, grant in place, and we hope to continue that because it's not just directed equity-wise. We have a lot of we help a lot of farmers, period. There's a real need out there for those farmers to build businesses behind those farms so that they can stay and exist. And that's on the farming side. We have federal grants on the other side, and although we originally targeted ourselves at this and these Black and brown communities, we could just as well do this for small businesses, period, because people are going to find you where they find you at, and they're going to support you where they support you at. And so whether you explicitly say, this is who I'm serving, is probably not all that important, really.
Gotcha. Okay, I like it. Keep on keeping on, essentially, if we can. I'm gonna skip to another question because I just feel like there's so many questions. To any of the panel members, what were your greatest challenges you faced in starting your nonprofit, and how did you overcome them? So I'm gonna let AJ take that one.
Uh, and all honesty, my biggest challenge was also my biggest asset. So I come from a really big nonprofit here in Detroit, uh, about youth theaters. Detroit has like two really large youth theaters, so it's really hard to get the name out there. But when I realized that our focus was the opposite, like we're not focusing on who's on stage, we're focusing on the behind the scenes work. And I want to touch on that last question a little bit because this
Please.
kind of ties into that. Uh, we're tightening our belt, and kind of going back to basics to what we were before we kind of had this nice little emergence. And the beautiful thing, good people, I want to say this is to encourage you. Just like there are so many big R's, there are a lot of big D's still doing the work. And there are a lot of smart people who are fighting the good fight. One of the things that we're doing is, and we've been doing this for a while, is you're not giving us money, you're investing. All right. Here in Michigan, one of the biggest things that we run into is like the talent leaving. And we're saying, hey, we're building a talent here at home and you ain't got to look elsewhere. Um, Things change, after George Floyd is DI and all these kind of buzz things in corporate world, those change. Workforce development will never change. It's been around before I was born, it'll be around after. So we've just been saying, hey, this is what we use, but it's still workforce development. Everything that you all are doing, whether it's mental health, sexual like abuse, you're dealing with like a sector that needs support, and they need people who know how to handle that. So that's the approach that I'm telling everybody to take. Because guess what? Uh, all the donors and even the government, you pay your taxes, they are obligated to give back. You just need to find a way to say it that fits that mold. I know politics is a game, you got to play the game, but just like corporations, foundations, the government, they all have a mandate to give. So you just need to figure out how you fit in to that. And yeah, that's what we're doing.
I like it. And Takiwa, this is kind of related. The question says, can the panelists speak to how they got their partnerships/sponsorships to support their endeavors, and what type of funding, federal, private, in kind, do they receive, and how is it allocated within their organization? That's kind of a lot, but yeah, what does your mix look like, and how did you start getting these grants or donations? How did you manage all of that?
One of the things that I have been really easy for me to get funding is two things. A lot of people focus on the grant writing process itself and not paying attention to like what is your infrastructure? Are your programs really detailed? Do you have your mission really detailed? Do you have your data collection in place? Because once you have all of that in place, what's your mission? Your programming detail, your financials in record, your evaluation in place so you can collect data, the grant writing and applying for resources becomes so much easier because you'll have everything what you need. And so the focus should be equally how do I become technically excellent in my work and having strong infrastructure? How do I tell my story of who I serve and what we do? And knowing exactly what you need before you need it. So there have been times where this has been the focus. I needed XYZ, and I've gone to ask for XYZ. Each year, I do a budget of what my program budget is and what those different allocations are. Um, Even if you cannot afford accounting yet, I think Candid has a class focus on nonprofit accounting so you can set your budget line items on what you need. It always includes staffing, learning what are direct resources and programming resources, knowing what are operating expenses so that when you sit and you say, okay, I need these resources for my programs and operations, you know, okay, I need to look for grants to that'll do X, Y, Z. I need to look for do a little bit more unrestricted funding or operational support because we need operations to do that, right? And so I think that as you focus on how I get funding, focus on a strong infrastructure so that when you meet up with the people who want to fund your work, they want to fund you because they see the organization as a good investment in there because they know that if you get where they give you $70 or 7,000 or 700,000, that you are going to use the money as you said, and you have the infrastructure to handle the finances as well as do the work and show the data.
I love that because I was going to ask, and someone's kind of asking this already. The one thing I see from probably all of you, I may not know with Janice as much, but every time I see Takiwa, because she's in Atlanta, I get to see her outside sometimes. She's taking some kind of class or doing something. Like she's always learning. I'm kind of like that's cool. Like I see her. She claims she's an introvert, but she's always outside talking to everybody. But same thing with AJ. Like you reached out to me because you were in, I don't know what you were in, but you're always, it seems like you're always out there learning, picking up new things. Janice, I'm not sure with you as well, but someone asked, do the panelists have memberships with professional organizations and associations? So I'll let Janice start and then I'll let you two chime in about the different things that you've been involved with.
Yeah, I always join the nonprofit associations just so that I can be connected to other nonprofit leaders. Getting involved in your local chambers and stuff like that is also great. Those are business people; they can be funders for you. Many of them have the wherewithal to do that, and if there are bankers and stuff in there, you can certainly, get those relationships in place there. And then some industry type organizations I'm involved in a women's organization. I'm also involved in an organization for Black founders and stuff like that. So, because I know that my weak spot is really this nonprofit area that I'm in. This is my
Mhm.
first rodeo with that, even though I'm doing good at it. I'm just positive that I can do so much better.
Thank you. And
And another
AJ, what?
thing,
Oh, go ahead.
one of the tips that I would like to that I haven't heard here is that
Mhm.
what you need to do as a nonprofit starting out on the ground or whatever is you toot your own horn. You need to be the best press release person you can be. You need to always be searching out the media, creating media for yourself, because that is where people are going to find you. Case in point, I happened to be lucky enough to get an article in the Wall Street Journal, and from that, I got one individual founder who founded us, who gave us one donate, well, a 3-year donation with the right to continueship of $130,000 a year to do the work that we're doing. And that was just from a news article. So having those press, droppings of yourself is really a good thing.
Yep, and just keep talking about what you do because I've heard that too.
Yeah.
So AJ,
Let
you
them feel
asked
it in your
me,
heart. Yeah.
yeah, you asked me to be a part of something. You were in a program, so tell me what program that was, and kind of tell us how you learn and what you join.
Yeah, so kind of piggyback on what Janice says, the biggest spokesperson for our nonprofit organization is me. Like I'm the face, whether I want to be or not.
Hmm.
So I am. If you're in Detroit, there's a program called BDAP, Black. It's about for Black nonprofit executive directors. That's what it's in Detroit. But the program that we were just talking about was I have the good fortune of being a Ford Foundation fellow. It's
I remember.
easier to get into Harvard than it is to get in that program. They take they get like I think they said like 20,000 applicants and they pick 40 in the world, 20
Wow.
outside and 20 in America, and they pick five from Atlanta, and I think Detroit only got two. So I was one of the two in Detroit. So that really helped me get my name out there in the city because it was like, what? If Ford messes with you, then we need to kick the tires and see what you're about. So, and that opportunity happened because, yeah, I just like with the Candid thing, seen the opportunity and was like, what I got to lose? Signed up and it turned out to be like a blessing. So don't don't look at these things like, oh, somebody sending me something, it's just another thing. Do your due diligence and see if it's worthwhile because you never know what great things will come from it.
Awesome. Takiwa, I see you out all the time doing all the things.
Yeah, but I'm not even doing all the things. So, um, there are a couple of things. So, I am a member of a civic organization. Um, I am a member of my local chamber of commerce. Um, and I don't do many things because although you say I'll be outside, I'm an introvert. And so I have to be very selective about my energy, have time
Hmm.
to recharge, do my mental health, because some of these
Hmm.
things are just a lot, a lot.
Agree.
When I'm out, I want to be present. But this is what I want to
Mm.
say about like my own personal development. I've done cohorts right now for me in the stage of my leadership and career. Um, the best thing I've done is executive coaching. I'm about to start my third session in probably the last 6 years. Each has been for a different thing. Um, two of the times I've had a funder pay for it. Um, the first time there was a subsidized program where I really had to pay like $500 for 6 months of coaching. And there is no right way to say, do these things as far as your development as a leader.
Hmm.
It is important for you to think about what do I need at this very moment in my leadership? Do I need relationships? And some of those cohorts are better for relationship building because you may know some of the information because unfortunately, a lot of these programming for nonprofit leaders are cookie cutter and they're not specific to what you may need to learn. You may know more or less, or and I've had this conversation before. A lot of them are targeted to large organizations, and they expect you as a small or to just figure out how to apply this to your small org. And so, when you're thinking about what organizations do I join, what professional development do I think, or even if you do, maybe you just need to read a book or go to the Candid library, right? But always be very strategic and intentional about your time, especially when you work for a small or medium sized nonprofit, because you don't have time to waste because you're doing a lot of things, right? And so think about, hey, based on where my org is, where I am, is applying for this cohort better because I either learn something or to give me a community that I need. Or, do I go between doing like leadership Atlanta or leadership Douglas, right? Because those are about relationships. You may not learn you need, but you may have access to a whole expanding your network. So when you think about training, organizations, cohorts, all of those things, think about where you are as a leader and where your organization is. And do you need the knowledge or do you need the relationships? And then that's how you make a decision of what orgs, what professional development, what cohorts, all of that. that'll be the most beneficial to your time and
I
help
like that.
your work. Yeah.
Okay, so somehow I'm gonna have to try to ask all of you to give like your best advice and also answer a question about your Black leaders, and that's why we're here. Part of the reason, and it's already tough for nonprofits, and then it's tougher, as we can see from statistically speaking, for Black leaders and Black-led nonprofits. So someone asked, any tips for overcoming gatekeepers when it comes to access to fundraising? We are a new nonprofit, and people say they want to help, but they don't. So, if you could kind of combine your answer for like getting past gatekeepers and kind of your best tip for non new people who are starting out new. And I'm going to start with Janice. I'm also going to pull up the PowerPoint just so people know what's coming up next. So, a lot going on over here. So, Janice, your tip for overcoming gatekeepers and really how tough has it been as a Black leader, and give your kind of best tip.
Oh, my best tip for overcoming a gatekeeper is, that's the best kind of networking that you can ever do. You got to try to get referred in. So you got to find folks who might know that funder in some way. So you got to look at their organization and other people that they might have funded or whatever, and see if you got any connections to any of that. And then if you do, then you can get those people to help you kind of get in the door. Otherwise, you're kind of sitting on the sidelines looking in. So use your networking skills to try to see who knows who, and then get those people to help you get referred in.
Thank you. And would you say that's kind of your overall best tip for new nonprofits?
That's one of my really, really good tips. My best tip is you got to stay strong if you're going to stay in this game called nonprofit stuff. And you've got to always be learning, and you've got to always be networking and kissing a lot of babies and a lot of people.
How about you, AJ?
So dealing with gatekeepers, the best thing I'd say, it's like the Bible says, in order to have friends, first show yourself friendly. So you gotta, try to it's people. Like they have a job, but you gotta get to know them as people, not just, hey, can you get me in touch with others? And then the advice I like to give is I am so blessed to have been born a young male. And in my life, I've learned that you will hear no. So Saturday night has got me prepared for this. For all the people that you've asked, do you want to drink? There will be no's, but for every nine no's, that one yes is worth it. So I have been very fortunate to get used to. But first of all, I didn't get that rejected that much. Let me put that out there, okay? But I have had some rejection in my life, and that's gonna come. And another thing, you're not meant for everyone, and not every program is meant for you. So, uh, in getting to know the gatekeeper, know if it's worth you investing in them, because this is a partnership. Again, I want people to get that thought that they're giving me money. No, they're investing in the future, and they're investing in their business, because if we don't raise high value um, people with disposable income, things are going to change. Cadillac, oh, I'm sorry, GM gave money and they said something that changed my life. They said, hey, we want to make our community better so they can afford Cadillacs. Once I heard that, it was like, hey, let's figure out how we can get our people to afford Cadillacs so GM can be pouring into our community.
Exactly. It's the cycle. How about Takiwa? Tell me your best advice on how to get past those gatekeepers.
I don't believe in getting past gatekeepers because this is one of the things I tell that I feel like wasted a lot of my time in the early years.
Mm.
Sometimes you cannot change a no to yes. Sometimes you cannot make someone want to support or work with you if they're just not interested in. And that is a lot of wasted energy when
Mm.
you can spend that time. One, work with people that want to work with you, and also telling your story so that people will find you. One of my best funders found me from LinkedIn and me sharing a story
Yeah.
how to work. So spend less time like you can't change a no to a yes sometimes. Like that's just let it go. Trust that whoever's going to find you will fund you as long as you do great work and tell your story.
Value
Um,
so.
and my thing as a Black leader in overcoming the challenges, um, just like everything else, this system is not built for us. But in spite of it, since they stole us from the motherland, we have found ways to succeed, um, and do well. And so know that, and this is something one of my friends told me, know that everything that you experience is real. Don't let people gaslight you. Find safe spaces to cry, but also manage a balance of self care and community care and be committed to this work. And you will be fine. Take breaks when you need to. Um, Celebrate your wins. When the challenges and failures come, cry when the disappointment comes, because applying for grants is a lot, right? Having these meetings and introducing people to your work is a lot. It takes time and energy. And when people are like, no, it hurts because you're like, I do good work. Don't you see them babies doing STEM? But your people, your funders will find you and just keep going. The ancestors will give you the strength to keep going, and
Mhm.
your community as well.
I love it. We are covered. We are covered. Thank you so much for being here today. This is over because, it's so fast. Our next nonprofit leader speak on is February 25th, so I put it up. Remember that you're going to get a survey when we're done, and you please, please, please let us know how we did because we're excited about this. Takiwa, Janice, AJ, I'm so glad y'all did this with me. And I'm just so happy. It's going to be on YouTube probably next week. I'll let you know. But thank you all for coming. And if you like this webinar, we hope that you'll participate in the next one. And that's it. That's the drop mic moment.
Um,
Bye.
mm.